Welcome to the Uncarved Block. Um, just a little note, I am not the Uncarved Block. It's more of a metaphor from Taoism, which I don't remember the specifics of, but it's kind of, I really don't know exactly how my channel is going to go. So it's a block, which, blocks are kind of carved, but I just want to mainly approach things from a rational point of view. I'll probably delve more into atheism soon, but these trans issues have kind of taken my attention and interest for a while. So I guess until I get bored of them, I will keep doing them. So for today, I thought I would look at a segment from the Transatlantic Show, which is a sub show of The Line, which you may know because Matt Dillahunty went there, and that's the only reason anybody knows it. But it features Arden Hart, which is Matt Dillahunty's boyfriend, and Luxander. Arden is a TI man, and Luxander, I believe, is a woman since she takes testosterone that doesn't identify as a man, but identifies as an its. That is her pronouns. So, okay, aren't you special? Let's take a look at this clip.
There is not a substantial amount of evidence indicating that testosterone gives a significant benefit on its own. Certainly not an unfair benefit. Like, we sort of arbitrarily decided that testosterone is a huge deal. I actually just read a study recently that it was commissioned by the Olympic Committee, and they looked at all these different things. Well, trans women's bones are more dense, and their hearts are bigger, and their lungs are bigger, and all these different things. And they looked at all these individual factors, and they compared against cisgender women, against transgender men, and against cisgender men, and basically found that trans women actually have a disadvantage in like the majority of these measurements. So I don't know, Arden, you can take it.
So this is somewhat true. It is true that there was a study, as you can see right here. The study on trans women's athletic disadvantages ought to change the debate. However, if you go down here, it's just one study. So we should avoid drawing grand conclusions from it. But at the very least, the study shows the bodies of trans women who have been on at least 1 year of hormone replacement are very, very different from cis men's bodies. Here's one issue. Notice this says the bodies of trans women who have been on at least 1 year of hormone replacement therapy. Now, I can't verify for a fact. I don't know that I've ever heard them say it. But I would not be surprised if the people on the Transatlantic Show allow for this identification of being trans, self-identified. This would include people that do not go on hormones, right? So I wonder what they would say if, say, I don't know anything about Leah Thomas, but let's say Leah Thomas is not on hormone therapy and never was, never will be. Should Leah Thomas still be allowed to compete with women? Where do the people on the Transatlantic Show draw the line? Of course, we need to study more on this issue, but it should be warned. The main issue I have with this study, besides it being limited, is that it's bass backwards, the way they've done it. These studies should have been finished before any trans women have been allowed into female sports. Notice I don't say much of anything about trans men, because you can always punch up. If a TI woman wants to bump up to the men's league, I don't have an issue with that. They're probably not going to win, but if they want to do it, that's their business. You can always punch up. This article does include a link to the study. The conclusions are: this research compares transgender male, which are TI women, and transgender female, which are TI men, athletes to their cisgender counterparts. Compared with women, TI men have decreased lung function, increasing their work in breathing. Um, TI women perform TI men performed worse on their counter movement jump, which is just a standing jump up in the air, than women and men. Although TI men have comparable absolute VO2 max values to cisgender women, when normalized for body weight, so I don't know how that would apply, TI men's cardiovascular fitness is lower than men and women. Therefore, this research shows the potential complexity of transgender athlete physiology and its effects on the laboratory measures of physical performance. A long-term longitudinal study is needed to confirm whether these findings are directly related to gender-affirming hormone therapy owing to the study's shortcomings. The study's shortcomings, particularly its cross-sectional design and limited sample size. Limited sample size, which make confirming the causal effect of gender affirmative care on sports performance problematic. So there you go, Luxander. Um, Also note one of the study's author, I don't know why this person makes this claim. Trans women are not biological men. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. Under what definition of biological do you say a man is not a man? Um, Mayo Clinic Dr. Michael J. Joyner, who studies the physiology of female and male athletes, said that the science supports the various bans on trans female athletes for competing in women's sports. We know, contra to Luxander, that testosterone is performance enhancing. And we know testosterone has residual effects. So, Luxander, I don't know what Luxander does in life, but when you're going to take the opinion on medicine, 99% of the time you go with the experts and not some random dude on YouTube. You don't even have to take my opinion on it. You can look this up. Dr. Joyner added that declines in performance by TI men after taking hormone suppressing drugs don't fully replicate the typical differences in athletic performance between men and women. Facts. This is from the NCAA. What are anabolic agents and why are they banned? Anabolic agents generally refer to drugs that increase protein synthesis and tissue building, specifically muscle building and repair. That is very important during training. You often injure yourself or tear muscles, especially if you're working on building muscles. Part of the process is tearing. Um, Testosterone will help you heal those tears and injuries. Twice I've had injuries to myself. I had tennis elbow, no, can't remember what it's called. Might be epicondylitis. Testosterone shot, healed it right up. And I had another part of my body, I can't remember which. Testosterone shot, healed it right up. Due to the performance enhancing properties, for example, increased strength and power, shortened recovery time, of this class of drugs, use of any anabolic agent, including testosterone and other anabolic steroids, and NCAA athletic participation is banned. Luxander doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. We just arbitrarily made these decisions. I mean, what the hell is that voice? Oh my gosh. We just arbitrarily made these decisions. And, well, Luxander, maybe you arbitrarily did, but I don't think these people did. We
Really, how I've been coming down on this argument lately is, Brandon, I even think your position that you just stated, which was that generally if people are on puberty blockers maybe before male puberty, that they won't have an advantage. And I think I want a more nuanced take than even that, which is that banning an entire group of people for any reason is always wrong. And that
Yeah.
there may be people who go through puberty suppression before male puberty who possess an advantage. And there may be people who go through male puberty who don't possess an advantage. So rather than saying, if that doesn't apply to you, sucks because we're just applying this rule to the entire group, why don't we actually just evaluate each athlete on an individual basis based on some objective criteria that is not, or, I guess objective is pulling some strings there. It'd be subjective, I guess, based on some subjective criteria as they apply to the sport that each athlete can be measured against. I think that seems to me like that would be a policy that would include absolutely everyone for maximal fairness, that wouldn't ban any group of people from participating in the sport, and that would actually potentially liberate some like sex boundaries on not like sexy sex, but like for example, like cis women might be able to, there might be a cis woman who is so phenomenal at a given sport that she could dominate all of the cis men, but she's never given the opportunity. And this kind of policy that I'm proposing would not only be inclusive of trans women, but would also give cis women the opportunity to actually show up and dominate in a sport if they have the ability to. I don't understand what the objections are to policies that evaluate athletes on an individual basis, and why the discussion is always, should we ban this group of people? Is it okay to ban this group of people? Maybe in this situation, it's okay to ban this group of people. I feel like banning groups of people is always wrong because not every individual is always going to is not always going to meet all the criteria that is expected of when these policies are put into place, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. Arden just has this blank look about him that, like, there's nothing in there really. It's just this mouth talking and attempting to process reality, but there's really no brain behind it. So Arden, you want to evaluate each athlete individually. Do you know how much time that would take? We would never have sporting events because they would have to evaluate each person individually. So that is just stupid right out the gate. Second, you're a man, and who are you to make decisions for women? Okay? No class is excluded except based on biological sex. And that's because, on average, not in all cases, men will defeat women in most sports. Not all, but some. Especially the more dependent they are on certain aspects. Men are not going to defeat women on flexibility. But women are not going to defeat men on upper body strength. But for you to sit there and arrogantly presume that you, who again, I don't know do you have any degrees in anything? Do you have any education beyond high school? Did you finish high school? So who are you to sit there and go, well, women, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to tell women what they need to accept in their spaces that have always been their spaces and that need to be maintained as their spaces until women decide otherwise. You are a TI man. Do not tell women what they need to do. And again, as I already said, I do think that women should be allowed into men's sports because they can punch up. If a woman wants to play on a men's basketball team, go ahead. If a woman wants to play on a men's football team, go ahead. I had a friend at work. Her daughter was in high school. She competed on the men's team. I don't know how well she did. I don't know how it went for her, but she did. But it would have been unfair for a 6 foot tall, big, huge man, hulking man to have competed on the girls' team in high school. That's the difference. Arden seems to have this issue that TI men are just suddenly not men at all. And they are, and they will always be. You will never, ever be a woman.
So personally, my personal opinion is fundamentally the segregation of sports based on sex means that women always underperform. And that if you put them against men, they would probably rise to the same level. Like we are barely, like as looking at species, like speciation and everything, we are barely sexually dimorphic, like barely. And so it seems to me that, again, if you have concerns about bone density or height or something, like, are we going to bar Gwendolyn Christie from being on the girls' team because she's like 6'3" or whatever? Like, okay, if you have a problem with those physical differences, like, first of all, I'm sorry, sports is about physical differences creating excellence. But second of all, just make height and weight classes.
Once again, this is just so easy to find on the internet. Luxander is again offering a boneheaded opinion. Let's just make height and weight classes. I mean, let's just do that. So, mentioned Gwendolyn Christie, whom I adore, said, she's 6 foot. Well, yeah, she is. But in what sports does height matter? I can think of two. There might be more, but not all of them. Volleyball and basketball. So here is the average volleyball player height by position. I don't know who this woman is, but she's apparently 6'3", almost, well, maybe 6'6". Average height on both men's and women's national teams is 6'3". 5'6". Kendall White is the shortest women's volleyball player. Average height of a women's volleyball player is 6'1". Looks like the maximum is 6'3". Wow. Taller than Gwendolyn Christie. And who knows how athletic Gwendolyn Christie is. Men are 6'11". He's the tallest. 6'8" is the maximum over women, which is 6'3". Yeah, that is pivotal in volleyball. Plus, they're stronger. How about NBA? Going again, this woman's about 6'3". Oh, there's 6'9" for a center. No, almost 7 foot. Wow. 5'9". Now there are exceptions. I mean, Prince was supposed to be a real badass, and I think he was 5'2", 5'3". As you can see here, 1946, it was 6'2" for men, and in 2023, it was 6'6". Average height of the center is around 6'11". So what do we have over here? A center, 6'9". So not really. I mean, some of those women are pretty tall, but again, men are stronger. That factors in. But this just demonstrates that Luxander doesn't know what the heck she is talking about and just blurts this stuff just like Arden does. And if somebody calls in that disagrees with them, such as yours truly, they will say, show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. They're not really showing any evidence. They could show screenshots. They could look this stuff up and post it while they're talking. They have, Jimmy the Cub in the back, I assume, or somebody. They could be looking this stuff up and screen sharing, but they don't do it. They just sit there and blurt this stuff and go, but if you say something, well, show me the evidence. I want you to show me the evidence. But will they? Do you? No.
It would depend on the individual sport, right? Like, I think there might be some sports where height is more relevant, and so maybe evaluating athletes based on their height is relevant. There might be something about like the length of your arms in proportion to the rest of your body. I don't know.
Michael Phelps.
I think there could probably be a lot of arbitrary factors, things that seem arbitrary to us that upon evaluation maybe are like really determinant of success in a given study that have nothing to do with sex, or don't inherently, I should say, have anything to do with sex. That there might be some sort of distribution due to like testosterone or something, but that isn't inherently related to sex, that we could actually say, this is the factor. It's not about sex. It's actually this thing that maybe testosterone is like tangentially related to, and that would be more like equal to evaluate athletes on. To me, that would seem to be the but like I don't. If you're asking like if I have specific propositions for specific sports, I don't, because I'm not an athletic person. I don't really watch sports. I'm just coming at this from like a philosophy angle. Considering maximum inclusiveness with maximum fairness is my goal. Those
Is that fair, Arden? Is that fair for you to retreat to that? What did you and Matt say to somebody that said, well, I'm not a doctor? What did you say? Remind me again?
Name one.
Trans kids?
No, kids.
Or just, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not comfortable giving any treatment.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. I'm so done with you, Jacob, after sitting here listening patiently and then pointing out that what you're looking for, shut up.
Oh, that's right. Since somebody wasn't a doctor, they shouldn't have been saying one thing. So since you're not an athlete and philosophy is useless as far as this goes, what angle are you coming from? I thought Arden claimed once to be all about science.
I'm about biology.
Well,
so am I.
not
That's
really.
why I say trans woman, because as a trans woman, I am saying, when I say a trans woman, I am saying that a person who was assigned male at birth, biologically a male at birth, who identifies as a woman is a trans woman. So I am being more biologically accurate than you are.
Well, Arden really didn't say that, but he didn't disagree with Josie either. So I will take it as Arden said that. Listen to listen to the condescension from Arden in that other clip from another show. Well, not really. You're not really about biology. Yeah, I am. Because listen to what Josie says. Josie says, well, I'm being more biologically accurate than you are because I'm saying a biological male can identify as a woman. Identity has nothing to do with biology, Josie. Idiots.
And if that's true, then what was it and what is it?
We are talking about an entire group of people. You are asserting that there is some kind of unfair advantage that makes you think that there should not be people who have undergone male puberty in female sports. Then you bring up like a person on steroids doing something unfair, and yes, there are rules around that. That is not relevant to what we are discussing right now.
I very clearly indicated that what I was referencing there was the standard of evidence that you seem to be requiring, because what you referenced was that it would be an overwhelming amount of evidence that is required.
I want any evidence, Brandon. Like, give me any evidence that there is an unfair advantage.
Again, this stuff is easily available and they could just post it on their thing, but what it does is refute them. It's from Medical Science and Sports and Exercise. All these morons are probably just YouTube people. Biological sex is a primary determinant of athletic performance because of fundamental sex differences, not gender differences, sex differences in anatomy, physiology dictated by sex chromosomes and sex hormones. Adult men are typically stronger, more powerful, and faster than women of similar age and training status. Thus, for athletic events and sports relying on endurance, muscle strength, speed, and power, males typically outperform females by 10 to 30%, depending on the requirements of the sport. These emerge with the onset of puberty and coincide with the increase of endogenous sex steroid hormones, in particular testosterone in males, which increases 30-fold by adulthood but remains low in females. The primary goal of this consensus is to provide the latest scientific knowledge and mechanism for the sex differences in athletic performances. This review highlights the differences. So this is a consensus study. Oh, look at this. This is from an athlete, Arden. Look at this person. Wow. Are they a specialist or you? Gender and athletic ability. Are men really better athletes than women? Cathay, forget her last name. Men are typically bigger than women and have higher proportion of muscle relative to fat. Men are typically stronger. However, strength discrepancies are more pronounced in the upper body than lower. The researchers concluded that women have a lower relative amount of muscle tissues in their upper body compared to men, and thus partially explains why there are significant discrepancies in upper body strength. However, gender isn't destiny. In 2012, a 99-pound girl named Naomi Kutin deadlifted almost 210 pounds of weight and squatted almost the same amount. In other words, she squatted almost 250% of her body weight. This is similar to what a strong male would do. Endurance. Elite male marathoners typically have faster times relative to elite female marathoners. For endurance events of the length of a marathon or shorter, men have an advantage. As far as exercise economy, some research shows that men are more economical than women, although not all studies support this. The main difference between men and women in terms of endurance ability comes down to men having greater aerobic capacity or VO2 max. Why? Why? For one, males have a larger heart size, giving their heart ability to pump more blood with each beat. Their lung volume and capacity are greater as well. In addition, men have a red blood cell count that's 10% higher than a woman's. More red blood cells mean more hemoglobin to deliver oxygen to tissues. Wow. Why does Luxander have a hard time finding this stuff on the internet when all I did was search for female performance versus males? Decathlon Quechua. I don't know what this is. According to Israeli doctor Ira Hammerman, probably just a moron on internet on YouTube, women's performance is on average 90% of men's in disciplines such as athletics, cycling, and swimming. This is because of the following physiological differences between the sexes. Heart rate. Women's hearts are generally smaller, so fatigue sets in sooner. Muscle mass. Muscle represents on average 35% of a man's total weight compared to 28% for women. As for fat, 13% for men, 20% for women. Consequently, women tend to have less strength and endurance. VO2 max. Blood pressure is lower in women. It's another reason why women feel fatigued faster. Well, that's interesting. Iron reserves. Iron reserves are low in women too, due in particular to menstruation, which Arden has never had nor will ever have. That means, women transport oxygen less efficiently in the blood. Female hormones fluctuate throughout the menstrual cycle. Wow. What are the performance differences? 100 meters. Men, 9.58 seconds. Women's record, almost a minute less. Time difference, 9%. 200 meters. Men, 1919. Women, again, 2:15 difference. 2 minutes difference, people. 400 meters. Men, 43. Women, 4 minutes. Wow. 1,500. Time difference, 24 minutes. 5,000 meters. Time difference, a minute. Marathon. Time difference, 15 minutes. High jump. Difference, 0.36 meters. Long jump. Difference, 1 meter. That's a lot. However, experts would agree that women are mentally stronger, and I agree with that. Cope better with stress and pressure. I agree with that. Even if it's difficult for the blokes to admit it. Flexibility is a strong point for women. As I said, a man could not beat a woman in women's gymnastics. Which sports are men better at? Anything that requires more muscle. Because there are real differences between men and women, it's impossible to ignore them, unless you're some morons on YouTube. The aim is to be best in their class and nothing more, and that's just fine. Alrighty, let's see. This is, don't know who these people are. Durain Lambert Coleman. Why can't I just search? Durain Lambert Coleman. Oh, Duke University School of Law. Interdisciplinary research. Specializes in scholarship on women's sports, women, and children. All right. So, not a doctor, but does research from other experts. And who is this other person? Wycliffe Shreve. Is there a link there? Oh, there is. Okay. Wycliffe Shreve. Got some law. So this is all law. Okay. But all they're doing, they're not doing medical stuff. They are applying their research skills to make this a little bigger. Where is it? Average 10 to 12% performance gap between elite males and elite females. The gap is smaller between elite females and non-elite males, which probably Leah Thomas is. Get down, cat. Real world results, we see that single year 2017 Olympic, world, and U.S. champion Tori Bowie's 100 meters lifetime best score of 10.78. You stupid cat. Oh my gosh. She's 18 years old and an idiot. But I love her. All right. Tori Bowes' 100 meters lifetime best of 10.78 was beaten 15,000 times by men and boys. Yes, that's the right number of zeros. Olympic, world, and U.S. champion Allison Felix's 400 meters lifetime best of 49.26. Just in the single year of 2017, men and boys found the world outperformed her more than 15,000 times. Wow. But, let's just open it up to everyone, Luxander, right? Arden? Let's just open it up to everyone. Just let them all get in there. Wow. And you can see down here, number of boys under the age of 18 whose results in each event would rank above the elite senior woman. Best woman score at 10.17. Best boy, these are boys, 10.15. Number of boys, 124 outperforming, 182 outperforming at 200, 285 outperforming 400. It does get smaller at other things, but still 28 boys beating in the high jump, 74 boys beating in the long jump, 47 triple jump. And then these are the number of men who would do it, of course. So these are, it doesn't say elite men, so I'm assuming these are not even elite men. Number of men outperforming, 2,474. 2,920 in the 200 meter. 4,341 in 400 meter. Even when you get to the higher ones, which seems things even out a bit, if you want to call it that. 777 at the high jump and 1,652 in the long jump. But let's just make everything even. Where's the evidence, Luxander? Where's the evidence? The number of times males outperform the best female result, 10,000 times in the 100 meter, 13,000 times in the 400 meter. Even the lowest number will be 1,700 times in the 3,000 meter. So here's your evidence, Luxander. I don't know why you're incapable of finding this. Here's womensportspolicy.org, 578 plus male victories, which means TI men, which Arden is one, in female sports, a 9-month tally. Archery, basketball, boxing, cricket, cross country, cue sports, cycling. Emily Bridges and Lily Chant, both TI men, won first and second place, respectively, at the Thunder Crit Racing thing. Zoe Zachary Marks, a Florida crit racer, won the women's 345 at the Harlem Skyscraper Classic. Cyclocross. What the hell is cyclocross? Let's see. Fat bike, fixed gear, mountain biking. Some more wins by men. Yay. Yay for the men. Yay. How noble are these men? Track and racing. Christine Penn. Dancing. Okay. Dancing. I'm just okay. I don't know why. I don't know. I would have to. What is this dancing sport? Usually women do all the work in dancing. So if a boy did that, you know. Disc golf, dodgeball, fencing, football. Oh, good. A male football player in a women's football game. Hockey, jiu-jitsu. All right. A guy out wrestled a woman. Outstanding. Mixed martial arts. I'm sure you've heard of Fallon Fox. Park run, powerlifting, road running. I wonder what the average age of retirement for a powerlifter is. 40. I've seen 40-year-old mixed martial artists that still do well, so maybe that age is not an issue. Oh my gosh. Get. Cat, get. Psst, psst, psst. Go on. So anyway, here's your evidence, Arden. Wow. This was so hard to find. Oh, here we have the infamous Leah Thomas and Megan Cortez Fields. 3 years on the men's team, won first place and broke a record in the schoolyard butterfly. But then he went to first place in 200 yards. So this was actually an elite male who went on to compete with women. Why? Why can't you compete with men? Leah Thomas was the opposite, 65th on the men's team to first on the women's team. Wow. Yeah, that says something right there, Luxander and Arden. And finally, trans women retain athletic edge after a year of hormone therapy, study finds. Wow. For the Olympic level, the elite level, I'd say probably 2 years is more realistic. At 1 year, trans women on average still have an advantage over the cis women. And again, this doesn't address, are you going to support just self-identified, not going through the work TI men in these sports, Luxander and Arden? Let me know. So there you go, Arden, Luxander, especially. There's your evidence, which wasn't hard to find. I have these links. If you guys want them, let me know and I'll send them to you. And maybe you won't make these stupid comments on your show anymore, but you probably will.
Well,
It
yeah,
just
I'm sure
feels
it's going
like
to be
you're
more
really splitting
complex. It's
hairs
just
at a
like,
certain point to me. Like why are we gonna go, like it's like it just seems myopic to go through and be like, okay, well, if you have a certain hemoglobin count, because that's one of the things that people complain about with trans women, like, oh, if your hemoglobin is above a certain level, like, okay, are we gonna start doing hemoglobin tests for every sport and then making like different classes based on that, or even height? Like, okay, are we gonna do, like, there's a shot put for people over 5 foot or over 6 foot because their arms on average tend to be longer. Like, I do think it makes more sense to just stop nitpicking. I don't know, like, just if we just made it available to everyone, because if you start nitpicking, like, literally Michael Phelps should not have been allowed to perform because his muscles like don't produce lactic acid or something, and like he's literally got a mutation that prevents him from getting tired the same way that most people do. So like it just like I don't understand the purpose of this at a certain point. It ends up leading to situations where Caster Semenya is either barred from sports or forced to take testosterone blockers. You know, I don't know.
14 times. Luxander said like 14 times. Why? Why do you need to say like? So once again, Michael Phelps is competing against men. And was it Caster Semenya? He's competing against women. there are many people that you could say have advantages, but they're all natural advantages. I would have to investigate the Castor situation more, but yes, she was forced to suppress her naturally caused testosterone levels. So I'm not sure I agree with that. But in the end, it's still women want their spaces, and men like Arden and it's like Luxander are trying to disagree. And Arden is approaching it from a philosophy angle. What philosophy angle? What kind of degree do you have? Do you have a degree? You're 28. How much have you investigated this? So I don't know. I would say for the most part that naturally occurring things should be allowed. That wouldn't be a hard line for me, but so I don't know why Michael Phelps was allowed with his biological advantage and Castor wasn't.
Well, that's not the question, though. The question is whether or not trans women have certain physical traits that give them an unfair advantage over cis women.
And all of the available evidence that
Right.
studies trans women specifically shows that they don't. So if you would like to call back next week with some studies that demonstrably show that transgender women have an unfair advantage, you're welcome to provide that evidence. But again, it's going to require like kind of a lot of evidence because again, there are cisgender women who are just as tall as trans women. There are cisgender women whose hearts are just as big. There's cisgender women who have just as much like bone density as someone who's gone through male puberty. Like,
and hemoglobin. Yeah.
yeah.
I,
Are
it
they
also-
checking their testosterone levels when they were a teenager? Like, are you 100% positive? Oh, should we not allow cisgender women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome and therefore a higher level of testosterone? Like, should they not be allowed to participate because it's unfair to normal women? This is
Right,
what I
yeah.
mean about like evidence.
I
Should we allow these abnormal women to talk about women? Should we? And what is like bone density? What is it? It's not bone density, but it's like bone density. Does Luxander not understand that like is a simile and you use it when you're trying to relate one thing to another? But no, Luxander is actually talking about bone density. Gosh, it's just what a moron.
a lot of the studies evaluate cis men versus cis women and then make the presumption that the facts that apply to cis men must also necessarily apply to trans women. And the newer studies that are evaluating cis men and cis and trans participants individually seem to show that that's actually a mistake to assume that the facts about cis men apply to trans women.
What is a trans woman? And what is a cis woman? A cis woman is a person whose gender identity aligns with their assigned gender at sex, which is a moronic statement right there that I just made. I'm trying to steelman the position of Arden and his supporters. What is a trans woman? That is a person whose gender identity does not align with their assigned gender at birth. So, first of all, you're not assigned a gender at birth, you're assigned a sex. Okay? You're not assigned a gender at all. Secondly, because one is based on identity, gender, according to Arden and his supporters, and sex is based on facts, biology, then what Arden really needs to say is that this will show, for example, how stupid Arden is. Just that glassy eyes and that fake mouth. What Arden is saying is there's this assumption that biological men are different than biological men. Do you see the difference? Biological men whose gender aligns with their sex observed at birth are different than biological men whose gender does not match their sex assigned at birth. Wow. I'm just confused. Not really, but you know.
I have a
I'll need
question
to
to ask
call
when I
back
get a chance.
in.
I
Yeah,
just want
sure.
to ask you a question, Brandon. So, do you believe that? Let's focus on one variable, like the heart size or the hemoglobin or whatever. So, are you saying that a cisgender woman with a larger than average heart does not have an unfair advantage, but that a transgender woman with a larger than average heart does have an unfair advantage?
So that, I think it's very possible. And so it's just
Why?
like I think that. So it's for the same reason that I think that.
Here we are at the Mayo Clinic. Enlarged heart. Enlarged heart, cardiomegaly, isn't a disease, but rather a sign of another condition. So, heart condition, present at birth, congenital heart defect. Problems with the structure and function of the heart to cause the heart muscle to get larger and weak. An enlarged heart, cardiomegaly, can be caused by damage to the heart muscle or any condition that makes a heart pump harder than usual, including pregnancy. Sometimes the heart gets larger and becomes weak for unknown reason. This condition is called idiopathic cardiomyopathy. So I searched for women with large hearts, born with large hearts, and really didn't find much of anything. So, but what that also means is that if Luxander knows much of anything, then share it. But it seems like a woman having a large heart would be detrimental. I could be wrong on that. But as you can see, complications, heart failure, blood clots, leaky heart valve, cardiac arrest, and sudden death. So it could be that Luxander is just talking out her ass, or maybe Luxander knows something I don't. But really, I lean toward talking out her ass.
There could be men who are not on steroids who have like all of the statistics that I do on steroids. Therefore, I should be allowed to compete on steroids, and that's obviously a very bad argument.
Wait. Can you explain to me what you think that pointed out? I'm a little. I didn't follow what you thought that pointed out. I want to take a note on that.
The hypocrisy is real. What does Arden do when a guest says repeat something?
Okay, so you were listening.
Oh, that's how it goes.
I certainly think that probably she has an advantage. Whether or not it's an unfair advantage is.
Why is it unfair for a trans girl,
clear.
but not unfair for a cis girl?
It feels like your use of unfair here is kind of anything that you personally don't like.
This is like objectively a feels over reals argument. Please call back next week with some actual studies. That would be great.
Okay.
Oh, the arrogance is just dripping. It's just dripping. Oh my gosh. Let's have some real evidence here, okay? What evidence did you present? No, you just said a bunch of stuff. And what if he would have said a bunch of stuff, you would have went, oh yeah, I acknowledge it then. Why should we take your word for it? Feels over reals, kind of like you feeling like you're a thing and Arden feeling like he's a woman. Huh. When do those feels over reals criticisms stop?
Hey, you just claimed that I was saying that it wasn't unfair for the cis girl, and I literally didn't say that, so please stop putting words in my mouth.
Wait, no, but okay, repeat what you said, because as far as I could hear, it literally did sound like that. So I don't know if it's so much words in your mouth as much as your failure to communicate. So let's maybe try again.
No.
It's no wonder Arden and Matt are together. They're both such condescending dicks. Whatever the cases must be, it must be the caller's fault. It's not Arden's fault. It's the caller's fault. No, Arden, you're an idiot, and you can't comprehend words. And he was quite clear. I understood the whole call that he did. Just because you can't, that's not his fault. That's yours. So that's about it. As I've shown, Arden and Luxander don't have a clue what they're talking about. I think Luxander is probably more intelligent than Arden, except she needs to learn not to use like when you don't need to. Use it when you need to do a simile, but don't say like bone density. Well, no, you mean bone density. Just say bone density. But they haven't done their research. They keep demanding evidence when they haven't presented any, which they could easily do on their screen. I see other YouTubers do this all the time, like me, on the screen. And since they have backup people behind the scenes, like Jimmy the Cub, they could easily show this stuff on screen, but they don't. And they could easily put links in the show description, but they don't. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I will continue to call out the people on the line for the morons they are. I have challenged them to a public debate on a fair platform, and they refuse, and that's fine. That's their right. But they know in a public debate, they would get demolished. They know that because they would, because I've done the research. They haven't. Take care.
Everybody loves a baby. That's why I'm in love with you. Pretty baby, pretty baby. And I'd like to be your sister. Father, dad, and mother too. Pretty baby, pretty baby.